Hey, kids, welcome to the Randy Karraker Show with Matthew Rocchio here on STL Sports Central, where we are presented by DraftKings, and the crown is yours. A lot of cool stuff to talk about today, including John Calipari. Cal went off a little bit.
It was fantastic. Well, you can't blame him. I don't know what we're doing. Like, it's one point, like, I understand, giving people a chance now that the whole professionalism isn't an issue thing, but it's just, there's got to be a line somewhere. And that's not going to be our first topic today. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, but it is insane to me that Scott Drew was surprised that people were like indignant of this. They were like, we can't believe you're doing this. He's like, why is anyone shocked that I'm doing this? He's like, I'm sure that the conversation with me and Coach Izzo went great. He understands. I go, I feel like I heard his public comments. I don't think he understands.
Baylor recruited and signed a player that had been in the NBA draft. He was drafted 31st overall, played in Europe, and the NCAA said, oh, yeah, no problem, even though he was drafted and even though he's played professionally. Yeah, you take him, and he's got 4 years of eligibility, no problem. So as you might expect, other coaches are pissed. But let's start with the Cardinals. And no move by the Cardinals today, but perhaps a precursor to a Cardinal move. The Athletic reporting that the Angels have agreed on a restructured contract with Anthony Rendon. The remaining $38 million of his contract, this was last year of that deal, is going to be paid out over 3 to 5 years, and that'll free up salary space for the Angels to use on either free agents or trades in the next few years. We know that Nolan Areando has expressed an interest, at least a mild interest, in going home. Reportedly, that would be one of the teams, the Angels, that he would waive his no trade for. The Angels could use a bat, even though we don't know how good that bat will be. But if they can get him at a discounted price, and they've already rid themselves of the preponderance of Rendon's salary for 2026, maybe there's a deal to be made there between the Angels and the Cardinals.
Please, dear sweet Christ, let there be a deal between the Angels and Arenado, because the list of teams I actually expect to make the deal for Arenado is extremely small. The teams that I expect him being happy with would be extremely small as well. Small Venn diagram between those two teams. The Angels crosses them off, and just I've become a little bit nervous that he's going to be here on opening day. So this finally opening up, just get the deal done.
Yeah, if he is here on opening day, that is a major issue and a major problem for the Cardinals, and specifically Ali Marmol, because if Arenado is in the Cardinal uniform, the Cardinals and Ali Marmol have virtually no choice but to play him. They're handcuffed, right?
They're handcuffed.
And that limits their ability to get everybody they want to get into the lineup. And this is not because
it put a ceiling. What it did was it put a ceiling on last year.
It did.
The ability to find out and use last year to its fullest. A ceiling was put on it because Nolan Arenado was on the roster, and because the Cardinals can't go full, Pirates and bench a future Hall of Famer and piss everybody off. They had to keep playing him and things like that. And that put a cap on what last season could have been, what you were able to find out. And that's why we're still going into this season with question marks, and we've talked about that a lot already. And so it hampered them last year.
Last year, the third baseman nominally for the Angels was Yoan Moncada. He is a free agent. They still, I think a lot of people think, have to do something to try to pacify the Mike Trout fan base, and maybe even Mike Trout himself. They've spent money on Soler last year. They have Joe Adell. They made a trade for Grayson Rodriguez, so they got a pitcher. They gave up a hitter in Taylor Ward to get him. They've got a decent shortstop in Zach Nado. They've got some decent players, and actually Nolan Arenado would fit in there as one of their best guys. If they don't have Moncada, and we don't expect that they will, and they wouldn't have to give up anything for Nolan Arenado. He's due $31 million cash over the next couple of years. Okay, so it's $41 million. I think it's $42 million, but $5 million is deferred. The Cardinals are going to wind up paying that. No, $6 million is deferred. The Cardinals will wind up paying that. $5 million will be paid by the Rockies. So essentially, it's $31 million cash over the next couple of years. The Cardinals give 16, and then they have to pay $7.5 million a year for a third baseman. That's not a bad deal.
No reason not, and no reason it couldn't be another $20 million, just like Sunday Gray. If you're willing to put up $20 million for Gray,
right.
I don't see why you wouldn't be able to put up $20 million for this.
Now
saves you money as long as you're saving some millions. Why not make the move? It makes the Cardinals team better. The DeWitts just have to eat it either way it goes. Mike in the chat says the problem with the trade to Anaheim is Arenado wouldn't approve it there. He wants to go to a contending team.
No,
unless
he's changed his mind.
That team's in Southern. Also, I think that if the team's in Southern California, it changes the equation on whether or not they need to win.
Yeah, he understands the limitations that exist in trying to move him. Nolan Areando knows that if the Cardinals put him on the market, and he, believe me, is on the market. But if you look at last year's playoff teams, okay, Toronto, they don't need a third baseman. The Yankees, they traded for Ryan McMahon. They don't need a third baseman. The Red Sox are still in on Bregman. Maybe they would like a third baseman, maybe not. I mean, they have Marcelo Mayer coming back, right? They've still got Story on that infield. They still got Christian Campbell under the big contract. So I don't even know if the Red Sox at this stage would be interested like they were last year. Baltimore doesn't need a third baseman. Look at the other. Cleveland's not taking him. Detroit's probably not taking him. And Kansas City certainly isn't taking him. The Mariners, you would think, would be interested, but they've shown no propensity to be interested.
Why would any of these teams not simply wait until July? If an injury or if something plays out and they're being faced with the opportunity, the dilemma of either play the third baseman we have this year who has sucked these first 3 months, or he got injured and he was doing fine and now we have to play some minor leaguer, or we can trade for Nolan Areando and at least know that defensively we have that spot locked down. I could see some of those teams making that move for Nolan Areando, but one, that's not a guarantee because you're literally playing on people not developing or people getting hurt. And two, it's going to put a cap on the first 3 months of the season for the Cardinals in 2026, which would be a huge problem.
I think the other thing you have to look at for franchises that are expecting to win, Bregman is still out there. Suarez is still out there. There's still two third basemen that are better than Arenado that are there on the free agent market. I don't think the Angels are in it to win it this year, but I think that bringing a guy like Nolan Arenado into their clubhouse could be an advantage for them, and maybe they feel like they could, again, if it's $7.5 million or $5 million a year for the next 2 years, I think that it makes sense, especially with the money they're saving on Rendon, because that if they can get him at $5 a year, that would still give them money to go out and get another pitcher. And the Angels have issues, but they, as we mentioned, they have some pretty good talent there. Joe Adell hit 37 home runs last year. Trout we think that Mike Trout is done. I think that Mike Trout is done. You might not think that Mike Trout is done, but last year he again barely played. He usually doesn't, but in 130 games, and that's not bad, 456 at-bats, he hit 28 home runs, drove in 64, had an OPS of 797. That's representative. If Mike Trout could do that again, you'd take that. And then you could add a 700 OPS third baseman that might hit you 20 home runs. I don't think that'd be a bad thing. So, but the point here today is that with the deal that the Angels have forged with Anthony Rendon, who, by the way, hates baseball, and Nolan Arenado loves it, I think that there's something to be said for the possibility, at least, of the Cardinals and Angels working a deal. One other quick point that I need to make for everybody, and I know most of you understand this. If you trade Nolan Arenado, you aren't getting anything back in return, right? You just tell the Angels, okay, we'll give you Arenado, we'll give you the money, you just pick out the player you want to send us. But the Cardinals are not going to get exorbitant value. They won't even get like an Austin Gomber or the third baseman that they traded for, who's not in baseball anymore. I think for none of the players that went in the Arenado trade in 21 are with the Rockies organization anymore. And I think a couple of them are out of professional baseball altogether.
Okay. So yeah. So I mean, yeah, this is about
Eli Harris.
Yeah.
What was his last name? Montero. I think.
Montero. Yeah, it was an M, and I couldn't come up with it. You better than I did. Some chats here. Let's go.
And by the way, I like Erismo 2138. I hope behind closed doors they're telling Arenado that if he stays, he won't be a starter. If he doesn't want to waive his no trade clause again, that is what I said I would do. But the Cardinals, I think, have an aversion to that because other players take note of that around baseball, and you don't want to have a situation where a player won't come because, well, you did this to Arenado, and I don't want to be screwed over like that. And that players do look at it as being screwed over. If they make an effort to come to a team, the team takes them, he's under contract, and then they don't play him. I think taking time away and telling a future Hall of Famer, we aren't going to play you, that word gets around, and I think that winds up being a negative. And that's one of the reasons that the Cardinals played him last year, and that we said if he's here this year, he has to play, because perception among other players is a big deal in baseball now.
Ken and Joseph, why would you put a Gold Glove on the bench for a wannabe? Because the wannabe doesn't have a defective shoulder that broke his swing.
Well, and the wannabe is part of your future. The Gold Glover is not part of the Cardinals' future. The Cardinals, if you haven't heard by now, they're building for the future. Okay, this is a rebuild. 26 is not a year that they're going to be competing. 27 probably isn't. They hope to be on an upward trajectory. By the time the Cardinals are ready to compete for division crowns and world championships, Nolan Areando won't be playing in Major League Baseball. So what you want to do is give your wannabe an opportunity, whether that wannabe is JJ Wetherholt, or maybe it's Rendon Donovan, or maybe it's Nolan Gorman, or maybe it's somebody else. You want to give your young players an opportunity to show you what they can, and almost as importantly, cannot do, so that you can have knowledge of what you need to do for 2027. And that's why you would take the Gold Glover out of the equation and try to get a kid in there. And by the way, a wannabe has a chance to, a 24, 25, 26-year-old has a chance to get better. Nolan Arenado has reached the pinnacle of his career, and he's on the downside. I think even he, in his heart of hearts, would probably tell you that he's on the back nine of his career. And 2022, he was fantastic. He was third in MVP voting in the National League, had a magnificent year. He was everything the Cardinals expected when they acquired him from Colorado. And Goldie won the MVP that year, and Goldie probably isn't going to play baseball anymore after this year either. In that year, Arenado had an 891 OPS. The subsequent year, 23, 774 OPS. The year after that, 2024, 719 OPS. The year after that, the devil is in the details, a 666 OPS. You like that one?
I like that.
He's gone from 30 home runs in his number 3 in the National League MVP year to 26 to 16 to 12. He's gone from 46 doubles or 42 doubles to 26 to 23 to 18. Almost all of his numbers over the course of the last few years, OPS plus, almost all of his numbers have been in decline. 151 OPS plus to 108 to 102 to 87. Pretty much everything has declined for each of the last 3 seasons. And so you don't imagine that he's going to get better. You want to get somebody in there that you think has a chance to get better. How about that?
I never thought I'd have to convince someone this much to go from St. Louis to LA.
And especially when he lives there. He's got his warehouse there, and his buddies are there. His brother is there. He loves it there.
And Mike, with a very common thought process here in St. Louis, which is it's a shame they never capitalized on him and Goldie in their prime years with the Cardinals by winning a World Series or winning a playoff series
or
a game.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Did you get swept in that wild card? Was it a 3-game wild card? 2 games, nothing?
2 games, yeah. Could have won Yepes. He could have been a hero.
Yeah.
But then you get Quintana out of there early.
But again, we always have to point out the Cardinals failed to augment Goldschmidt and Arenado. Goldschmidt and Arenado also failed to hit those 2 games.
Yeah, that was not good. But
yeah, not great.
I think that
the opposite.
The point though, when you look at the pitching on that team, and again, I don't know what the situation was that would have prevented them, because they went out and got Quintana and Montgomery that year. And the Cardinals, I think, as we all know, were banking on what happened in 2006 and 2011, that they would be able to go on a magical run. And actually, they kind of did. Thank you, Albert. We appreciate it. But they should have been better from the beginning. And you didn't have a number one. That was the thing that struck me about that team, Matthew, is Waino was good, but not great. And he pitched game 2 of that series. Michaelis was actually
That's All-Star year?
Yes. Yep. He was in the All-Star game, 3.29 ERA that year. Dakota Hudson, he wasn't even going to be a factor in the playoffs. And then Montgomery never even got a chance in the playoffs, but he goes 6-3 with a 3.11. Quintana was brilliant. You had enough pitching to beat them, but to your point, not only did Goldie and Arenado not hit in that series, but nobody hit in that series except for Juan Yepes.
Greg Noble, it's a shame it has to end in St. Louis like this, but trading him is critical to the rebuild.
It really is. And hey, this happens in baseball. You would have liked to have been able to trade him when there was some value there. And, John Mozeliak last year during the winter warmup said that priorities 1, 2, and 3 for the Cardinals were to trade Nolan Areando. I don't think Apobo says that unless he's got a deal done. And he had a deal done with Houston, and it just didn't work out because Arenado blocked it. But that's water under the bridge. And now moving forward, hopefully the Cardinals will be able to make a move. Now, the other part of this is because you've already moved Contreras, you've already moved Arenado, and I think they'll move Brendan Donovan. So what you're looking at...
Joseph Polasher doesn't want him to, though.
What, Donny?
No, he says, I wouldn't trade Donny either. Extend him, in my opinion. Ditch Gorman, Newt, and JoJo. Listen, it's just let's put it in this perspective.
If Lars Nootbaar is not your projected left fielder, might not be there on opening day. But if Lars Nootbaar is not your projected left fielder, who is?
I agree with that. That's a huge problem. I'm going to come at it from a different perspective, which is going to be this, which is, are you okay with the Cardinals right now having, let's call it 2 or 3, maybe not even 3, 2 legitimate shots at a number 1 pitcher? Liam Doyle, and then take your pick if you think that Matthews or Liberatore or is the other number 1 potential. You have 2 darts to throw at hitting a number 1 pitcher right now. Brendan Donovan represents the potential for that third dart. If you're okay with the Cardinals going into the next 10 years with right now having only 2 guys who potentially profile as a number 1 pitcher, then I can understand why you want to roll with Donny. But the reason why I think you need to trade Donny is he is the only person right now who could get you a future number 1 pitcher as a prospect. And therefore, if I think the Cardinals would be better if they had more shots at a number 1, because you can find bats earlier, or you can find later on pitching later on in the draft. They need to get a big bat. That's true. But Brendan Donovan's not going to be a big bat.
No.
So heck, honestly, if they traded him for a big bat prospect, I could see that too. The bottom line is you need great players, and as great and as good and as above average and as other just below great adjectives I can find for Brendan Donovan, he fills out every single one of them. He does not cross the line into a great or a superstar player. And so if you can potentially get that from a team, and whether it be in the report that we're going to talk about here in a moment about Jurangelo St. if it can be a guy like that, you have to roll the dice in one of the only opportunities the Cardinals will ever have to roll the dice, because there's no expectations going into next year. You trade your best player so that you can have a second or third dart for a superstar hitter or a superstar pitcher.
And by the way, I don't know if I mentioned it here, but our buddy Greg Amsinger, who studies hard for the MLB draft and works with a lot of people from Baseball America and things like that, there were multiple people that thought in Sange's last year at Mississippi State that he would be the number 1 pick in the draft. He's got that sort of talent, kind of like Wetherholt. If he wouldn't have been hurt, people thought that Wetherholt would have been the number 1 pick in the draft as a position player. So if they could get their hands on St. that would be really impressive. To your point about Brendan Donovan, he's topped out at 14 home runs in his major league career. And I think the way the Cardinals are set up now, and their belief is this: number one, they love him because of his bat to ball skills, but that's why everybody else loves him too. That's why he's one of the most popular players on the trade market. But he's topped out at 14 homers and 34 RBIs. Let's see, 34. And this isn't a high of 51 extra base hits in one season and 652 plate appearances. But he's not a big power hitter. His career slug is 411. His career high slug last season, 422. I think that the Cardinals and other teams, not just the Cardinals, would be inclined to look at that 411 slug for his career. And like you say, that you would want them to ditch Nolan Gorman. Nolan Gorman's career slug is, let's get this correct for you. I believe it's
440.
Is
my guess at it.
So let me check. So in a power game,
probably down like 4. Maybe not that high. Maybe he's hit a couple bad years.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say 440.
But in a power game, you need power, especially at the corners. And the Cardinals are not going to have huge power at first base because Alec Burleson is going to be there. You hope that you can get some power out of Walker and Wright, and ultimately, I guess you're going to play Nootbaar. The career slug for Nolan Gorman is 419.
Oh, I knew I should have lowered it to 425.
Yep.
Damn it to hell. 440 was too high.
Yep. But in his best slug year, he slugged 478. And as we know, hit the 27 homers, 44 extra base hits. So we know that he's capable of putting up those slug numbers. And to this point, again, if Brendan Donovan was your second baseman, you say, okay, we'll take the 411 slug, but you need to have power from your corners. And by the way, if you're not going to get power from your corners, you got to get it from somewhere else. So like with if you have a Jim Edmonds to play center field, that can offset some of the loss of power on your corners, although the Cardinals didn't have that with the MV3. You just need to have power in today's game more than ever.
He's a subscriber. He's in the chat. His name's Neilio, and he says,
Hi, Neilio.
This team isn't going to seriously contend for the next season and probably in 27 as well. When we finish the season. You don't pay Donny the money he'll command if you're not contending. If a fan said to you, Randy, but Chaim Bloom's already turned this around into the number one farm system in the league, therefore the Cardinals aren't desperate to add talent. I want to keep rolling with Brendan Donovan. What would your reaction to that be?
No, I love the fact that they have the number one system, but they still aren't close enough. Having the number one system doesn't guarantee you anything. The Pirates have had the number one system in the past. The Rangers have had the number one system in the past, didn't get anything out of it. The Cardinals have been up there. You really have to get lucky to have a number one or two system and then have those guys work out to get you to be a great team. Ultimately, if the Cardinals have some of these guys work out, great. But I wouldn't count on all of these guys. So what you're asking is you say you keep Donovan because he's going to be a bell cow for Walker, for Scott, for Nootbaar, for Gorman, for Wynn, for Wetherholt.
Let him be the prototypical Cardinal leading the charge for the next 5-6 years for all these young guys and everything.
I don't think you have enough guarantees. I don't think you have enough good young, great
or
young
high
players.
or just high chance risk.
High ceiling guys. Right?
High ceiling risks.
Yeah. So I don't think you have enough of those guys. So again, I like Nolan Gorman, and I think he's going to go somewhere and be a good winning player for somebody. I don't think the time works for Brendan Donovan to be a long-term Cardinal. I think that what's a good comp? Just a guy that's a pretty good, not great player who was with a team for a long time and it just kind of wasted his career. Neil Walker was that guy with Pittsburgh, nice player for a long time, but never had a chance to really go to a team and be on a winner. And I think that's one of the things that Donovan deserves is that opportunity to go play for a team where his skill set can help them win a championship.
Neilio says the aim has to be starting pitching talent.
Yep.
Must develop that first and foremost.
Right.
And I agree with you there. My thing is that you do in Liam Doyle, you do have that number one power pitcher. You don't have the power bat, especially in the outfield. And so if the Cardinals were like, we're trading Brendan Donovan and we find out that the big prospect they're getting isn't a pitcher, but it's a power hitting left field prospect, I'd be like, okay, well, that's the one thing you don't really have. I mean, you have Baez, but he's a couple of years away. And if Walker doesn't work out, it'd be nice to still have Baez if Walker doesn't work out. So there's not a ton of power outfield bats, especially ones who could give you major league innings, let's say in left field this year if you needed it. And so that's why I'd be okay with it. And I'm throwing it out there also because if we're talking about the long-term gradient of building a team, it will always be true that you can sign starting pitching. You can't always sign a big bat to give you an injection into your lineup, but almost always you can sign starting pitching. The question will be in 7-8 years when the Cardinals are competitive, are they going to be a financial team that is ready to drop $25 million on a number 2 or a number 1 starting pitcher if they don't yet have it? That's a different conversation. But that's why I put out that's why I throw out the idea that the Cardinals could still build with some big hitting prospects, because if you just talk about how you build teams in baseball, I think it will always be true that with which side of the ball is it easier to inject a big talent most years? A pitcher is probably more likely to be available.
The thing is, while that's true, he's also extraordinarily expensive.
Yeah,
and you think about the big money free agent guys. Now, Yamamoto has been worth it for the Dodgers. He led them in starts, but Snell hasn't. Garrett Cole was for the Yankees, but Rodon wasn't. So often pitchers sign the big long-term contracts. Patrick Corbin did with Washington. Didn't work out. Max Scherzer did. More times than not, though, if you sign that big money pitcher to that $35, $40, $45 million a year contract, Scherzer with the Mets, Verlander with the Mets, that pitcher is going to have some downtime. And this isn't an organization at the moment that has the ability to pay for a big money player that isn't playing for them. That might change in 28 if we get a new collective bargaining agreement that leads to more cost certainty and the ability to overcome mistakes like that. But right now, with the system as it is, it's not realistic to think that the Cardinals could go out there and even 2 years down the road, sign a guy to a 4-year, $182 million contract. I just don't see that happening with the Cardinals. And by the way, in regards to going out and getting pitching, they have given themselves a lot of flexibility because of their trades with Boston and getting Brandon Clark, the youngster that throws 97, 98, and getting Fajardo in the Contreras deal. The Cardinals have a couple of other young, really young, potential number ones. Dobbins and Fitz aren't the main guys from those deals. The guys that played in A-ball last year are the number one guys. And hopefully the Cardinals will be able to build up to a point where they'll have potential number ones at every level. You'll have Motts, you'll have Rodriguez. Is it Rodriguez? Robinson, Exxon Robinson at AAA, in addition to Matthews and Doyle. Doyle might be at AA to start this season. And then you'll have those kids down at high A probably. So you're going to have a bunch of young pitchers that the Cardinals will have an opportunity to get going at the major league level.
I can't wait till the Cardinals have both Gerangelo Senja and Ishan Henderson up, and the average Cardinals fan is just furious on a daily basis having to try to pronounce those names.
It's going to be hard.
Ishan with an X, Senja with 2 J's and a T in there. There's an N as well. It's confusing. High Definition wants to simplify it. He says just trade the whole damn team.
Well,
essentially,
they've already started that. That was they let Goldie go as a free agent before last season. They've traded Contreras. They've traded Gray. They're trying to trade Arenado. They let Lynn walk. They let Kyle Gibson walk. They did trade Helsley. They did trade Matz. They did trade Maton. So they've done a pretty good job in trading pretty much the whole damn team.
Neilio says, Mike Sweeney here in Kansas City, he put up massive numbers. Team didn't do diddly. He's talking about players who were on middling teams for their entire career.
Yep.
Man, I'm really mad at myself because as soon as you said that, I'm really disappointed. My brain is not doing a good job of like coming up with guys to like pop into my head. I'm like trying to think of good guys who like never went to the playoffs but played for the same team for a really long time. And I'm trying to find more football in my head than baseball, and I'm really blanking on any good ones. So many crappy teams getting into the playoffs in the NFL every year. Because I was like Chad Pennington, but he gets to the playoffs with like 10-6 with the Dolphins there for a little bit.
Yeah. And one thing that happens is teams that don't want to pay guys don't keep them around.
That's the thing.
A guy like Andrew McCutcheon, right? He's had a donut. Pittsburgh at the front, Pittsburgh at the back. He's been with Philly. He's been with San Francisco. But he's a guy that has loved Pittsburgh and wanted to be there and try to help them win. Hasn't really worked out for him. The Marlins trade all their guys that have a chance to be any good.
Yeah.
Washington won the championship, so any of like a Ryan Zimmerman there actually wound up getting rewarded. You know who's going to wind up being that guy is Ramirez.
Oh yeah, that's a great call.
Jose Ramirez with Cleveland.
Yeah, they have. I mean, they he was on the World Series team, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
He had to be on that team.
Yep.
He was younger, but yeah, it hasn't really gone very well for him since then. Joe Mauer's a good one. That's a great pull.
Hall of Famer too.
Adrian Gonzalez.
He bounced around.
He did bounce around, but I mean, I feel like he the first like 10 years of his career are in San Diego. But yeah, he eventually tries to go to.
Joey Votto.
Joey Votto is the best example ever. Of course.
And he wanted to be a Red. Didn't want to go anywhere.
By the way, the rumor mill update that I'm referring to, and we already talked about it a little bit, but Ryan Divish of the Seattle Times had a report that the Mariners are reluctant to deal anyone from the big league roster to make a deal for, let's say, Brendan Donovan happen, but are willing to move top pitching prospect Durangelo Senja, which is just, again, we've thrown that name out a lot. We've thrown out the idea of Donovan to Seattle. The fact that it keeps getting reported on like this tells me that they've probably locked in on Senja as the main key. It's just now the Cardinals and the Mariners can't decide on what the auxiliary pieces of the deal are happening, because this is about 2-3 weeks now of Senja being the main piece to a Donovan deal. Montez was thrown out a little bit, but as we're just talking about now, clearly the Cardinals made a decision between a bat and a pitcher, and I think they're going to go with the pitcher. I think this is just about ironing out what the ancillary pieces are. We're getting a deal here, I think, in the next week or two.
Yeah, and Jerry DiPoto loves to make deals.
Loves making deals.
Yeah, I would think that we will we'll see that. By the way, Katie Wu and Ken Rosenthal at The Athletic today talking about the Cardinals saying they won't trade Donovan solely for the sake of making a move. We know that they say they have to be overwhelmed. And to your point, Senja might be the guy that starts that process, right? He might be the one guy, because I don't really think that the Giants, who are also reportedly interested, have that pitcher in their system that could overwhelm the Cardinals.
No, their biggest prospect is that second baseman who's years away. And it's just, I guess I would have bit harder on the Giants thing if there was a little bit more, like every time we asked people about Wetherholt playing third base, people pulled back a little bit on that.
Yep.
And so as soon as that happens, it's like, well, you're not, if you're not comfortable moving Wetherholt to third base, then you're not putting a Donovan trade in for another long-term second baseman, because Wetherholt's not then going to move to third base. I mean, unless you're trying to move him to left field or center field, which we would love, but I just don't see that happening. And so as soon as that happened, I was kind of poo-poo on the Giants one.
Yeah.
Didn't make any sense to me from there.
All right. We want you to know about DraftKings, especially because New Year's Day, you've got the college football playoff, 1 game New Year's Eve, 3 on New Year's Day. And then this past weekend might've been the best weekend of NFL football ever. And it's going to be great on Sunday, because Saturday and Sunday, you've got so many big games, and you need to check out DraftKings, America's top-rated sportsbook app. It's live here in Missouri, and you can make every game more exciting with same-game parlays and money lines and props and more, all from your phone. It's safe, secure, and easy to use. And right now, new Missouri customers can bet $5 at DraftKings and get $300 in bonus bets instantly. There is no waiting. There's no nonsense, just pure action, powered by America's top-rated sportsbook app. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code STL Sports. New Missouri customers bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets instantly. That's code STL Sports. The crown is yours in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus, physically present in Missouri. Eligibility and restrictions apply. Terms at DraftKings.com/sportsbook. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos.
All right, a little advice for people. If you are going ahead and use code STL Sports on DraftKings, you're going to get those bonus bets. Here's the thing. I had the 49ers defense last Monday Night Football, so I won the King of the End Zone, so I had some bonus bets. And so I just dealt with the last week of trying to figure out what the best thing to do for bonus bets. Here's my advice to you guys. If you get the bonus bets after signing up with STL Sports, you pick out that incredible NFL slot, and here's what you do. You put together a 4 or 6 leg parlay. And what you do is you go to the alternate passing, receiving, and running numbers for all the teams. And you take the 2 quarterbacks in the game, around 200 yards. You pick a running back for 30, one of the better running backs for 40 or 50. Maybe find a good running back who's going to get 2 or 3 catches. Combine that with a receptions total of 20 yards. Find a good receiver to get 40 or 50 yards. Put those 4 or 5 together in a nice little parlay. You're going to get a parlay odds of like plus 1,200, plus 1,300. So then you can take one of those bonus bets you get and you can actually turn it into some real fun money inside of the DraftKings app. That's one way to bet a little bit. Again, you're taking a bunch of really low end props and you're parlaying them together to try to hit a low one, but it's going to give you a little bit of money then to play with those bonus bets. In my opinion, it's the best way to bet the bonus bet. You're having a lot of fun watching the game because 6 different players can have something in a drive, and because you have a running prop, a receiving prop, and the quarterback prop, every single play makes something happen. It makes it fun. You're actually getting some potential value on the bonus bets that you just won from DraftKings by playing with us here on STL Sports through STL Sports Central. I think it's the best way to do it, and there's no better way to do it than over the next 2 or 3 weeks with the NFL slate, the college football playoff. This is the best time to do it. That, in my opinion, is the best way to do it. Just have a little fun with it because it's the bonus bets. You're not losing any money. Potentially, you're just making money to play with. That, in my opinion, is the best way to do it. I hit one of my 4 bonus bets that I got from King of the End Zone. Very nicely done. And I hit a smaller one that I threw in for a little fun there. 5 for 105 on a 7-legger in that game. It just had a bunch of, it was Purdy and Caleb Williams, 200 yards passing. Easy there. Yep. I took McCaffrey, I think 4 catches for 40 yards. Mm-hmm. Good there. Monangai for like 25 yards or something like that. Super low odds and things like that. But just add them all up together to make sure that you're going to take your $5 bonus bet and you're actually going to turn it into like 15 to actually play with. Best way to do it, in my opinion.
Nicely done.
There it is.
All right, Neilio, gut feeling, fellas. Where do you possibly see JJ playing in the field once he arrives? I would be shocked if he wasn't a second baseman. The Cardinals moved him over to second last year, little bit of third, and I think their thought was if they brought him up at the end of last year that he would move around a little bit. I don't think that's the plan anymore. They really like him on the middle infield. That's his best spot. That was actually a result of me saying that I would move him to the outfield, but they don't have any they don't have any desire to move him to the outfield. So I think he'll play second base. That's what I've been told because they really like their Gold Glover win at short. Zero doubt that he starts next season. Only real question is second or third, and I would say second. And then Kevin Huffman. Gorman, I think, will primarily just DH, sometime at first, second, or third to rest the others. Well, if Donovan's not here, Gorman is your third baseman. Donovan and Arenado, right? I think Herrera will still get time at DH because I just don't think Ivan Herrera is going to be the everyday catcher. I just don't see that happening.
Part of Kevin's thing is the one above that. He thinks so. He thinks that Wetherholt's going to start at third base. So JC starts at second base, and then Gorman's in the DH spot. Again, we've asked people about moving Wetherholt around, and when we've asked people about him playing third base, because again, what if because there was a point at the beginning of the offseason where the premise was they're going to trade from their left-handed hitters. So they could have. So one of the ideas was that they might trade Nolan Gorman and just roll with Wetherholt as a third baseman. But every time we brought it up to people who know this better than us, they would pull back almost every time we mentioned Wetherholt to third base because apparently he's a great defender, but his arm strength isn't isn't the tool that makes him a great defender. And so if he doesn't have the arm strength, you're doing a disservice to him by putting him over there on the hot corner. And that's what we've gotten from people who know this better, more closer than we are. Not our opinion, that's other people's opinion. We're relaying that one to you based on what we've been told about his positional, his best spot positionally.
And I don't think the Cardinals, I don't think they dislike Thomas Saggese. I think they like him as a very solid utility type guy. I don't think the Cardinals view, I'm pretty sure they don't view, unless they've changed their opinion dramatically, Saggese as an everyday player. I think he's regarded as that guy that moves around, can play second, short, third, maybe even a little bit of outfield in the future. But I'm pretty sure the Cardinals don't envision Saggese becoming an everyday player.
Yeah, and that's, you know what? They don't need him to be, because
nothing wrong with
they
that.
need someone to fill in for, if Mason Wynn continues to have maybe the knee or the back issues creep up. I would like it if he wouldn't have to be a warrior, as Ali Marmol calls him. I'd like it if maybe this year he says, you know what, maybe this isn't the season for me to be a warrior. And so let Thomas Saggese play a little play a little shortstop. Again, JJ Wetherholt's coming in not facing major league talent. Or major league pitching right now. I think it makes all the sense in the world to start him out of the gate no matter what. But if he struggles, having a guy like Saggese that you can then put in second base to make sure that JJ Wetherholt isn't being overwhelmed, that's an incredibly crucial thing the Cardinals are going to need. Thomas Saggese is going to be important to the Cardinals because they don't have a lot of depth that, has a future. And he's one of those guys who, if he pops, hey, all the better. And if he doesn't, you have a good, or if he's just a solid player, then you have a guy who can play 4 spots. Let's play a little left field with him. Let's have some fun.
Yeah. And one more here before we get to John Calipari. And this is from Kevin Huffman. All the more reason to, Kevin Huffman. All the more what makes me want Miguel Andujar on a 2-year deal, can fill in left field until Newt's healthy, can move to be the primary starter at third base thereafter. I don't think the Cardinals are in the business now of signing a 31-year-old to become one of their everyday players. And Andujar, he's had some decent years in the majors. He's also had some really bad years. And by the way, with Cincinnati last year, he was really good. But I believe the Cardinals, the Cardinals want to go younger than a 31-year-old to play third base.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. They need somebody who could do all those things. My thing is that somebody who can start at third base and fill in a little bit of left field. I just want it to be Thomas Saggese.
Yeah, and he'd be younger and cheaper. So that's the situation there. Okay, a lot of fun stuff has happened in college sports over the last couple of years. And you heard earlier in the season, we played you Tom Izzo when he got upset about a player that had been playing in the G League right at the beginning of the college basketball season, was given the ability to play college basketball. Now a player named James Nagy, who was drafted by the Knicks in the NBA draft a couple of years ago.
His rights have been traded twice.
Yeah, he was drafted 31st overall in 2023. And he's played in Europe. He's from Africa. And now he's getting the opportunity to play college basketball. Not just that, even though he's played in pro basketball in Europe and he was in the draft, he is going to be allowed to go to Baylor, start next month, and play 4 years of college basketball for the Baylor Bears. And that is what the NCAA has allowed. Well, as you might guess, some of the veteran coaches who didn't get this guy are sounding off on it. And John Calipari was one of those coaches.
Yeah, 30-point win last night, Arkansas over JMU. Here was John Calipari. This is about a 2.5-minute clip from a 7-minute rant, or almost 9-minute rant, I think it was actually, that John Calipari had in the postgame after the Arkansas JMU game last night. Here is the head coach of Arkansas, John Calipari.
Tommy Izzo, Mark Few, there are a bunch of us that are just, we got no rules. Why did they let that kid play? Tell us all. Here's what the reason. Then we'll all go get pros. We'll go find them. Here's my second thing. You ready? No one listens to me. I told you. My wife, I talked to her. She's not even listening. She got ear things in, and I didn't know. I'm talking to her. You ready? Mid-season, unless you're in the school, This is an easy rule. We can do this, NCAA. Don't tell me about lawsuits. If you join a program at midseason, you cannot play that season. If you're in school and have to get yourself eligible, that's okay. You can play the second term without playing the first. What? So now, let me ask you this. What does that do for the kids in the program that you're bringing kids in at midseason when it was their opportunity? I mean, I just don't get any of this. And again, Tommy, Mark Few, myself, we got my son, their sons are in this. I just want to help it before I'm out for my kid. I'm very selfish, but it's for that. But this stuff here, I just gave you what we could do. I'm going to give you one other. The collectives on our campuses, whether you're doing it through your media people, whatever, cannot be involved in recruiting in any way or transfers. But if a kid's on your campus for a year, give them what you want to stay. So we'll get more kids staying. How about this? It'll be great for them academically. They'll probably make more money, but they'll be academic. We're not going to have kids leaving after transferring 4 times. What's the percentage of kids that make the NBA? Unless you play for me. What would be the percentage? Like it's like 1% or less? That means 99% of the college players that are getting money, it's fugazi. Fugazi. Because they're getting 400, 500, 800, a million, and they're not pros. So now they have to go get a job after 4 stops. No college degree. No loyalty from the state or the program or anybody. You were a mercenary. Okay. Now you got to go get a job. I don't care what a kid makes. It doesn't. But I do care what we're doing to young people.
And absolutely, I mean, everything about that was amazing.
Yeah.
Him calling something a fugazi, him pointing out that you have a really low chance to get into the NBA unless you play for him. An all-time rant from John Calipari for all the things that makes Calipari him, but also just the overall truth of the statement, which is this is out of hand, and it's gone too far. It's one thing. With a guy like and this would have been a Calipari thing when he was at Kentucky, he had the player Enes Kanter, and Enes Kanter had played in Turkey and then came over to Kentucky. He was going to play for Kentucky, but he was ruled ineligible probably because he had received money for playing in Turkey. I think in that situation, Enes Kanter makes a lot of sense that he plays in college basketball. Once you get drafted to the NBA, once your rights are traded multiple times in the NBA, once you play in an NBA game, this isn't a hard conversation at this point. You shouldn't be playing college basketball at that point.
You're 100% right. There should be rules. I know that amateurism has gone out the window, but it's kind of out of hand now when you're allowing guys. I mean, when's the last time this guy was in school? This James Nagy guy.
I mean, I don't.
It's
right.
It's kind of ridiculous. Now, there's far be it for us as Mizzou fans to complain. Anybody who remembers Paulo Linni back in, I think it was the 92, 93, 93, 94 season, one of those. 93, 94. He watches Missouri just get blitzed in a game at Arkansas. As a matter of fact, I'll find the game for you. And he was watching on TV. I think it was an ESPN game.
He joined the Hungarian League in 2019.
This is Nagy.
Nagy. So he played about 5 years, 6 years of. He's played about 4 to 5 years of professional European basketball.
Okay. So anyway, this guy Paulo Linni is watching on TV, and Mizzou goes to Arkansas, and they get beat 120 to 68 in their second game of the season. And O'Linney calls the Mizzou basketball office. He was just sitting at home. He wasn't doing anything. He said, "Hey, I'm not doing anything, and I can shoot and I can play." So Norm Stewart said, "Okay, yeah," or was it? Yeah, it would have been Norm. So they brought in Paulo Linni. He joined them for the second half of the season. He played in 24 games. He averaged 37.8 from the field, and he scored how much? 10.3 a game. He averaged in double figures. Just shows up. He went from the couch to the court and wound up being a good Tiger. So I'm not going to agree with Cal about a player that joins a team at midseason because I was all in on Paulo Linney. That was a lot of fun.
He said you can do it, you can't be coming from the professional ranks and then joining the team midseason.
Who's working for the NCAA these days?
I have no idea who's working with the NCAA. Neelio says a start to a solution, but not the complete answer. All the P4 school presidents have to vote to totally break away from the NCAA.
Yep.
Make a governing body that has absolute authority. End this era. The problem is with basketball is the P4s can't split because then you destroy the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have the mid and low majors in college basketball, what do you have? You just have the blue bloods and the crappy teams in the power conferences.
Mm-hmm.
That would be, that's literally you're admitting that we have to destroy the soul of the sport for a couple of years to save it long term, which, hey, that actually might be the answer to it. I hope to God that's not the answer to it. That would suck.
Yep. Cards in 2028. Randy, if you need content tomorrow, we can bicker about Herrera. His ceiling at catcher is a lot higher than you give him credit for. Well, if he starts to be able to throw people out, I can have this argument.
I think, okay, let's have this argument right now. Actually, we can really simplify this one. Randy, do you agree that if Ivan Herrera can be a average to at least an average defensive catcher in Major League Baseball, do you agree that heightens his positional value?
100%.
But debate's kind of over there. Of course, this isn't hard. I asked Ali Mal about this when he was on Hot Take Central. If you have a power hitting catcher who can actually play a good defensive catcher, the amount of offensive flexibility you now have as a lineup creator, you're in heaven. Every lineup works. Everything's beautiful. Everything's rosy. You wake up every day saying, I get to put together a lineup with a catcher who's one of my best two hitters in a good lineup. That everyone would love it. It'd be rosy. Then you have a DH who hits as well. Oh, it'd be beautiful. But if Ivan Herrera can't play an average, catching defensive game, then this is the issue we're dealing with.
Herrera in 2024, 4 for 55 in throwing out base runners.
Yeah, not good.
0 for 15 last year.
Yeah.
In his career, 6 for 75 in actually 6 for 81. 6 caught stealing, 75 stolen bases. So 6 for 81 in throwing out runners in his career, which is not very good. I would like to have him be a little bit more proficient. And so I would like to see what that ceiling is. Now, I don't know if you watched him in the minors. The Cardinals thought, and I've mentioned this before, in the spring of 2020, they thought that they had the heir to Yadier Molina. They said, oh, yeah, this guy's terrific defensively. His bat needs to catch up. Well, his bat clearly is better than his defense. Now, another thing that you have to keep in mind here is the division in which you play with a guy that is 6 for 81 in his career and 4 for 60 in his last 60 attempts. Well, the Milwaukee Brewers were second in stolen bases in Major League Baseball last year with 164. The Chicago Cubs were third, and the Cincinnati Reds were actually right there with the Cardinals with 105, and the Cardinals were down there. So you're playing in a division with teams that like to run, and obviously you play more games within your division. So he needs to get to a point where hopefully his arm is healthy and his footwork is worthy and he gets rid of the ball and his pop time gets to a point where the Cardinals can count on him to consistently throw out base runners. He needs to get up to, rather than 7%, he needs to get up to 20, 22, 24%.
Enrico Piazza says Piazza made the Hall of Fame that way.
Yeah, but Piazza hit almost 400 home runs. If Herrera hits almost 400 home runs, that'd be great. And the other thing is, I'm trying to think of how many World Series rings Mike Piazza has.
You know what, Randy? I didn't want to be a dick, but I did do a quick check, and by my count, the most games a team ever won with Mike Piazza on their roster is 93.
And he played in the World Series.
He played in the World Series.
2000 World Series. But yeah, he was not good defensively, no question about it, and that prevented some of his teams from being their very best. There's a reason that everybody wanted to move him when they got him.
Oh, sorry, 94 and 94 was in 2000. In 2000, my bad. But so I just, to your point, I was kind of, I'm like, listen, yeah, he was on a great team, and if you look at his baseball reference, he has 12 seasons, I think, where he finished in the top 10 in MVP voting, or 10 seasons, something along those lines. Yeah, Mike Piazza was an absolute monster, but I think there's maybe an issue. By the way, Neilio here. Best all-time rant, Tommy Lasorda talking about Kurt Bavacqua in a post-game interview. This popped up on my Twitter yesterday because I guess people are now remembering or bringing up Kurt Bavacqua because of the Notre Dame stuff that got famous. Have you ever heard Tommy Lasorda talking about Kurt Bavacqua? Yeah. Oh my God, that is the most unbelievable. And I know Tommy Lasorda had a lot of rants like that, but the fact that he just tears down Kurt Bavacqua for like 45 seconds in front of the media like that, it's some of the most unhinged things I've ever heard in my entire life. It's beautiful, and I just love the complete coincidence of Neilio bringing that up. I saw that yesterday on Twitter. Blew my mind. It's hilarious.
Yeah. By the way, league average for throwing out base runners is 22%. So that's where I want Ivan Herrera to be. The Lee Elia rant from the...
Somebody else threw that out there, yes.
Yeah, that's one of the all-time greats. And then we actually did this on The Fight a couple of weeks ago. Best rants, Dennis Green, they are who we thought we were. They are who we thought they were. Anything that Jim Mora did, you think you know, but you don't know, and you will never know, is one of the greats. So Weaver had a few.
Cards in 2028. I'll give Herrera the benefit of the doubt that arm surgery and serious retraining this offseason can turn him at least average defensively. And I will say that a man who knows much more about catching in baseball than either me or Randy Karraker, Benji Molina, was adamant on these airwaves last year that he believes that Ivan Herrera can be an average catcher. He believes that there was something holding back his ability to throw the ball, and clearly that has now been made public. It is now hopefully being fixed, and so Benji is adamant that if he gets those things fixed, he can, and he does have the arm strength to be an average catcher. And if that's true, like I said, it gives the Cardinals a lot of lineup flexibility, and I know Ali Marmol would love to roll with that.
Yeah, and the other thing that he needs to understand is opposing hitters, the strengths of his young pitchers. Remember, he's going to be a nascent catcher with a very young pitching staff, a very young bullpen. So there's a lot that goes in to being a good catcher in 2026. And yeah, I hope that he can become that guy. He's a smart guy, good guy. And if you all of a sudden have him behind the plate and like Matthew said, and your number 2 or 3 hitter is your catcher, like Ted Simmons used to be back in the day, that's pretty awesome.
One last thing before we go. There was a note in the Athletic. They had all the writers put up one trade they want to see the team make after the holiday freeze is over in the NHL.
One player they want him to get.
Like half of the writers answered no one, which I thought was fantastic. And I can't imagine the editor at the Athletic, as those emails slowly started rolling in from all the beat writers. No one. But there was one that I wanted to grab and show to people, which was Max Boltman, the Detroit Red Wings writer, put in Justin Faulk for the Detroit Red Wings. Here was his rationale. The Red Wings' biggest need is to deepen their blue line, where their third pair has been a liability. Justin Faulk is playing 23 minutes a night in St. Louis, and you wonder if the veteran could improve his territorial numbers and easier deployment. He's still productive, has an extra year on his contract, and could provide more support for Albert Johansson, or Johansson, my apologies. Plus, he would be a playoff-ready second pair option, so Detroit can shelter Alex Sandlin-Palika a bit if the Red Wings make the postseason. At this point, with the Blues again seeming like they can't put more than 2 or 3 games together, because they haven't put more than 2 games together this season, I feel confident making that statement. I'm not sure if this is the exact deal that would make sense from the GM side, but it feels like trading Justin Faulk would make a lot of sense for the Blues.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. I would. You don't want to have that guy, because Mayu eventually is going to be your number 2 right side defenseman, with Karraker being your number 1 right side defenseman, and you don't want to pay $6.5 million for a third pairing right-handed defenseman. It's just kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I have no problem with that. Now, Jeremy Rutherford said that he doesn't think the Blues should go get anybody.
Nope. He had a no one on there. Not surprising. Yeah. He did throw out a player that a couple other teams are looking at, a big physical forward that does a lot of things they don't do, which is he back checks and he drives the net. But apparently there are competitive teams who are looking at him. Sherwood is the forward, by the way. There are competitive teams who are looking at him. So why the hell would the Blues trade for him?
Yeah, I think Balake Coleman would be fun. I would take him on my team. And as JR mentioned, many of the guys on the board are already Blues, but there's a couple of guys on that team that I would take.
By the way,
or on that list that I would take.
We're going to talk about this a little bit more tomorrow, but I just want to let everyone know things are happening in Minnesota at the World Juniors.
Oh yeah,
Gavin McKenna with a hat trick, and there might be a Euro that I bring up tomorrow on the show that just got a really interesting piece on The Athletic. If you want to go check it out, and he might have a connection to the Blues.
Really?
I'm gonna bring this up tomorrow. It's gonna be fun.
Okay. By the way, would you, because as we speak, your St. Louis Blues, following that loss last night, are 3 points out of a playoff spot. They're 38. San Jose's at 41.
The loss was profitable, by the way.
Yeah. They're also 4 points ahead of the bottom team in the conference, the bottom team in the league. So would you rather gain 4 points and be in the playoffs, or lose 4 points in the standings and have a shot at Gavin McKenna?
You know what my answer is.
You'd rather lose.
Tank, baby, tank. Let's build through the youth. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
Just like it did with Eric Johnson.
Yeah.
Oh, that was so great.
No, Cam's not on the team anymore.
Yeah. So,
he's going to hate me for saying that. Sorry, buddy.
Hey, thanks for joining us. Great to have you with us on the Randy Karraker Show. We are presented by DraftKings, where the crown is yours, and we will see you next time here on STL Sports Central.